Hello, my name is Rob Mitchell and welcome to EFM. In this episode for Electronics for Makers, we're going to be looking at the MitchElectronics Transistor Flasher Kit to see how it works and why you might want to get one. Now you might be wondering why you want to get a transistor flasher kit, and there are a few good reasons for this. The first one being the very low component count and its price, and it makes a very good solder practice board. So if you're new to soldering or want to improve your skills, this is a good board to go for. Another great use for this kit is education. Basically, it can be built in a matter of minutes if you're very experienced, or if you're not, then about 15 minutes at the most. And it gives students something to play with and to see how something flashes. And as we all know, everyone likes a flashing circuit. And another potential use of this circuit is as an oscillator. You would have to take the diodes off, change the values to get the oscillation value you want, but you could use this as an oscillator. But overall, it's a really nice little circuit that blinks and can be useful in maybe things like models. So model railways, which have the little level crossing lights. If you replace the green LEDs for red LEDs, it would make a quite nice little British sort of warning, don't cross the railway. So all in all, it's a great little kit to build, doesn't cost a lot and can give you a bit of practice. So now we're going to look at the transistor flasher kit to see how it actually operates. And this is one of those circuits that's very, very hard to explain by just looking at it. And the reason why is that it oscillates. And any circuit that oscillates has no stable states, which means you can't just look at it and say, yep, that's what it's going to do. So you have to tabulate it, or, well, I find tabulation quite simple. A very good way to sort of demonstrate how it actually works. Now you'll see we've got two things here, positive and negative. I'm going to write negative voltages in blue and positive voltages in red. Yes, there are negative voltages, and it gets quite interesting because it relies on capacitive coupling, which we'll look at in just a moment. So before we carry on, you're going to need to get yourself a copy of the schematic, which can be found in the link in the description below, which you get from the documentation for the kit. Normally I have the hard to read schematic on the top right, but since I need the whole whiteboard here, you'll have to get the schematic yourself, have it in front of you to follow this tabulation. So the first thing we need to do is to come up with some starting values. And the reason why we have to do this is that we have to give ourselves a place to start at to then work down to see how the circuit works. So the first thing we're going to do is put our VDD voltage, which will be 9 volts. And the reason why is that you power the kit from one of these. So we are going to go ahead and put 9 volts. And then we're going to come up with some starting values for some of these components. So in this situation, we're going to start by saying that Q1, let's say Q1 is off. If you can hear drilling in the background, just ignore it. And the reason why we say that Q1 is off is because we just have to choose something at this point. When you see the circuit working, you'll understand why we choose off. But for the time being, we're going to say that Q2 is off. Q1 is off, sorry. So if Q1 is off, that means current is not flowing through it, which means D1 has to be off as well. And at the same time, if Q1 is off, then the positive plate of C1 must be 9 volts, which we'll draw in red. Give me a moment. This is going to get really complicated really quickly. Now the reason why this would be the case is that if Q1 is off, then, and assuming that the positive plate of C1 was off, then the diode V1 would be forward biased and eventually would charge and then turn off. So we don't have to worry about that. These are just starting conditions, but that would be the reason why. So the positive plate of C1 is 9 volts. Now we're going to assume that Q2 is on. And if Q2 is on, then the diode D2 must also be on, because current would be able to flow through D2 through Q2. At the same time, the voltage on the positive plate of C2 would be 0 volts. In this situation, we're also going to assume that the negative plate of C2 is off, and we'll also assume that the negative plate of C1 is 0.6 volts. And the reason why we're choosing this number is because Q2 has to be on, therefore the base emitter region has to be on, which is a minimum of 0.6 volts. So we'll just keep it like that for the time being. So what happens? So in this situation, the negative plate of C2 is going to start charging through the resistor R2. And when it eventually gets to 0.6 volts, this is where things get interesting. So we're going to say that the negative plate of C2 charges up to 0.6 volts. What happens? The first thing that you find is that Q1 turns on. If Q1 is on, then D1 turns on. Now when D1 turns on, the positive plate of C1 goes to 0 volts because it gets discharged, the positive plate of C1 gets discharged through Q1. Now when this happens, a very cool thing, I think it's quite cool, but a very unusual cool phenomena sort of kicks in called capacitive coupling. Now the negative plate does not stay at 0.6 volts. It goes down by the difference that was originally on there. So in this case, it's about 8.4. So it goes down to about minus 8.4. But just to keep things simple, we're going to say it goes down to minus 9 volts. Now, when this happens, the base emitter region of Q2 is now minus 9 volts because it's also connected to the negative plate of C1, the minus plate of C1. And so Q2 turns off. Now, when the negative plate of C1 goes to minus 9 volts, since the base emitter region of Q2 is also connected to that negative plate, it also turns off, and therefore D2 turns off. And now because Q2 is now off, the positive plate of C2 begins to charge towards 9 volts. So we're going to write 9 volts, but not in that. I've also noticed I've got the colours wrong there as well, but let's not too worry about that. We're saying 9 volts. What we're going to say is we're going to do 9 volts, and then we're going to say begins to charge towards 9 volts. Now, even though the negative plate of C1 is minus 9 volts, because it's connected to a pull-up resistor, which is R3, eventually this will charge back up to 0.6 volts. Now, when this happens, Q2 turns on because its base emitter region is now 0.6 volts, which turns on the transistor. So Q2 turns on, which also means that D2 turns on because current can flow through D2 into Q2 as such. And that also means that the positive plate of C2 goes from 9 volts down to 0. Now, do you remember what we said about this sudden change from 9 volts to 0 volts? That must mean that if the positive plate of C2 goes from 9 volts to 0 volts, then its negative plate must go to minus 9 volts. And when this happens, the base emitter region of Q1 goes to minus 9 volts, which means the transistor turns off. And therefore the diode D1 turns off. And the positive plate of C1 begins to charge to 9 volts. And if we follow this down one more time, you'll see how the oscillation works. So we start off by saying 9 volts on the power supply. And what we are saying is that eventually the negative 9 volts on minus C2 becomes 0.6 volts. And that will turn on Q1. It will also turn on D1. At the same time, the negative plate of C1 goes from, the positive plate of C1 goes to 0 volts because the transistor is now on. Q1 is now on, so it pulls down the positive plate of C1 to ground, which, that is supposed to be 0 volts, which then brings the negative plate of C1 down to minus 9 volts. And when that happens, the transistor Q2 turns off, and D2 turns off as well. And then we find that the voltage on C2 positive plate begins to charge back to 9 volts. And what you find is that this is a repeating cycle where this bit here and this bit here are the same, so it goes back. And you've got a loop where the diodes, the two diodes turn on and off like that. And that is how the transistor flasher oscillates. Well, that's all we have time for today in this episode. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.